Hello and welcome. My name's Liam Jones. I'm an artist from Toronto, Canada, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Reynaldo Garza, who is an artist, a fantastic comic book artist who has self-published his own comic called Tank McGreggor. And this guy, I've been harassing him on social media for the past couple of months. Feels like a couple of months, probably only one. But Ray is, to describe him is to say that his the head of lesser known comics who is working with him has spoken so highly of this guy. I asked him what's Ray all about, and he says Ray is one of the most proactive people I've ever worked with. He's laughing in the background. Ray is like the kind of guy who is always doing everything for the team. He gets up, he'll do video editing, he'll do last minute podcasts, he'll do whatever it takes to get things done. He self-published his own book, paid for it all, went out and did it, and then marketed it to all these different comic stores. And just basically, he's like the epitome of a self-starter, hardworking artist who's just got his boots on the ground at all times. It's my pleasure to welcome this guy. Thank you so much, Ray, for joining me.
Wow, thank you for having me. That was a hell of an intro.
I tried.
Just like we were, just like the script I gave you. Good. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, man, we've been talking for a while. I don't know when we started, but since then, I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna do this cool overlay for the thing," and so I did this art overlay here that looks kind of like a beat up computer screen. I put your logos on it and all this kind of stuff.
Awesome.
And then I made a bunch of like videos and stupid things. So I have a pretty good show lined up. I have definitely like segments that we can move through, just to kind of keep things interesting. Because this I'm trying to go next level with my YouTube channel. You know?
Oh no, it looks incredible, and you have been keeping me up to date with all your. Every time when you created this template, you showed it to me, and every time you do something new, you like send it to me, and. I remember at one point, like I didn't know that you had a connection to lesser known comics. I didn't know you knew Charlie. I didn't know you knew Mark on some level. So to me, you were just someone who like found me and were like talking to me. And then you're like, I gotta interview you. I'm like, all right, cool. Yeah, awesome. And then you kept sending me stuff. And then I was like, hey, Mark, do you know this guy? Or like, who's this guy? And he's like, oh yeah, Liam, he's cool. I'm like, oh, okay, good. It's not just some like random person.
Yeah, I mean, it would be totally weird if I was a random person, and in a way I am. I mean, I've only met these guys virtually, really through a guy named Chad LeDuc, who I think you've spoken to on a podcast or two. He's with Tardigrade Press.
Oh yes.
Yeah. So he's the guy who kind of introduced me into this whole world of like lesser known comics and all these different comic artists and stuff. So it's really cool. You know, friend of a friend, 6 degrees of separation, all that kind of thing.
Yeah, chat's cool. Yeah, man, that's how it works out, right? So that's how everybody knows each other. I've had entire conversations and entire like relationships at this point with people that I've never met, just through text and just through like video. That's how I know them.
For sure. So what got you on my radar was I was on Instagram because I've become a doom scroller. You know, you're just on Instagram and it's like you can't stop scrolling because like there's so much awesome stuff, just artists posting artist stuff, and it's amazing. But anyway, when I found Tank McGreggor, I was like, hey, this looks really good. And it's campy and comic-y, but it's also like really well done, legit, and the writing is like on point, really, really good writing. And you not only did the artwork and everything, like someone else colored it, but you wrote it and drew it. Am I right?
Yeah, that is correct. I did write it and draw it. Yeah, man, like it makes me feel really happy that you think that it's the writing is on point and that you responded really well to it, because that was one of my biggest worries when I was writing it, is that like, is this gonna like resonate with people in any way, or is it really just like me? Because it's one of the few things that I've written just for me. I have a little bit of a film background, a little bit because I have a film background. And a lot of the times when you're doing film and short films, you try to do things that would appeal to a broader audience so that, you know, you can get the most out of it. so I would always try to do that, and like, oh, I shouldn't do this because only it's a joke just for me, or only I understand that, or whatever. When I was writing this comic, it was just 100% for me. I didn't have any intention of actually printing it or publishing it. I was just doing something 100% for me and my own tastes. And to my surprise, a lot of people are responding to it, and a lot of people really like it and find it funny and think the writing's good. And I'm so happy to hear that.
It's it should be surprising, but it's not, because I think that's one of the things I hear artists talk about all the time, is that if you're going to create, you don't want to do it from the perspective of a business person where you're trying to hit a particular kind of market. If you're always best if you write for yourself, and then the people who like you or think like you do will be attracted to it, and there'll be an authenticity to the work that wouldn't come otherwise. Right?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I'm a firm believer of do what you like, and then the audience will follow. Like, someone will find your work if you put in the work. If you put in like the time to actually try to get it out there, and um, if you put your heart and soul into it, you gotta work hard. Eventually, someone's gonna see it. And that's been the experience. Like, little by little, people have been somewhat discovering Tank McGreggor and seeing it. That's the way you found it on Instagram. You reached out to me, and I was like, oh, cool. And now I'm on your podcast. It's like really funny how that works. And it's all came from just writing something genuine for myself. And you read it. I mean, I don't want to say it's a very particular sense of humor, but that's just like me 100%.
I think that's the only way to write. I mean, look at Rick and Morty, for instance, right? If I were to write Rick and Morty, or if I say that I was the author of something like that, that particular kind of niche, I think going through the mechanics of that would be like, no one's going to like this. This is insane. Like, they're going to think that I'm doing drugs for sure. And probably,
like, no one's going to get it. Yeah, exactly.
No one's going to get these references. No one's going to understand the pace or where we're coming from. Meanwhile, people are freaking out all over the world. They're like, this is the craziest, most amazing cartoon I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah,
and I think that's kind of the way
it's definitely like the gold standard, at least from my point of view, of like the kind of things that I'm trying to do in comics. Like, Rick and Morty definitely is like, oh wow, like, I wish I could not even write like that. I wish I could think like that. Some of the episodes they do, where it just goes into like such insane levels of meta, or they take a concept and they just like go with it until they like beat it to the ground and it becomes genius. And it's so crazy. Rick and Morty is one of my favorite cartoons for sure.
It's so crass, but it's like, it's amazing. Like I can't get over like how profound it can be at times. I think really good sci-fi always hits on some kind of maybe social criticism, or something that you're dealing with in your own life. You're going to bring it in, you're going to take it out of context and put it into this futuristic sci-fi escapist thing, but you're still dealing with this particular thing that's been on your brain. And I think all good writing has that, and I see that in Tank McGreggor too. After reading through it, I mean, it's funny. It's really like, there's joke after joke after joke. But then at the same time, it's like, you've got these issues of identity going on in there, and people being in the wrong bodies, or, and it's like, oh, hold on, this is not normal. There's something different happening here. Because that's what I've found.
Yeah.
What do you think?
No, yeah, 100%. You, like I said, you totally like understood what I was kind of going for, which was the whole idea was to take really like hi-fi sci-fi and concepts that you only see like in Blade Runner and like the Dune movies, and it's really serious stuff, and just kind of like not flip it on its head, but more like take the piss out of it. I just wanted to like make fun of it and not be serious. Whenever I try to write something very serious, I kind of get into my own head and think like, oh, this is too serious. Or I'm not. It makes me feel kind of almost like not genuine when I try to write something that's very like overtly serious. So whenever I'm writing, I always tend to like take the comedy route and like try to make fun of it, or like, oh, it'll be funny if like this happens instead of that. Something you see 100 times, just flip it on its head. But yeah, man, I do try to like mix in these big concepts and ideas. Like finding yourself in a different body, or identity crises, or a robot wanting to be human, or a couple of robots in a bonfire who are trying to integrate themselves into society, you know, but get it completely wrong. And just kind of like make fun of it and put jokes in it. And that's kind of my style, I suppose.
I wish I had some bongos right now because I'd break them out. It's an inside joke.
A little inside joke for people who read the book. All three of you got that joke.
Let me show you. So this is the cover here, Tank McGreggor and the Mechanical Menace. This is the book we're talking about. If you're not familiar with it, and more than likely, I don't know if it's gotten around like I think it has. I mean, I got used to it being in my feed and Instagram, but I don't think that the world at large is aware of this. And I want to help that situation because this book is amazing. So let's run the clip. Where do I have the video here? And see how this looks. All right, how's this? Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh my gosh, man. Yeah.
It's pretty tight, right? That music was actually made by a cousin of mine who does he's listed as musical guest on Instagram. That's his handle, musical guest. And he does music and he works with Ableton, which is a software that he runs over there.
I know Ableton well.
You know Ableton well. Yeah, he's like their director of a PR or something. I don't want to say because I might be getting completely wrong. But he does a lot of music, and he's always been doing like my songs. Whenever I used to do like little short films in college or whatever, I'd always go to him like, "Hey, I need something like this," and he'd always like do it for me. And then when I was doing the Kickstarter, I was like, "Hey, man, I need like a theme song, like an '80s synth, like cool badass
synth
vibes.
wave
like,
all the way."
Yeah, synth wave. And he's like, "I gotcha," and he just like knocked it out of the park, and that's what he did.
Man, I mean, that's the kind of music that I listen to nowadays. I don't know about you. My sense of music, I've gone through so many phases growing up because I grew up in Toronto, and Toronto's multicultural, very, very multicultural. And so I've just been immersed in that, and I took an interest in it. So growing up, I like started with my dad's music, which is like country and folk. And then I went into hip hop, then I went into reggae, then I went into jazz and gypsy and classical and just all over the map. Like it's insane. Arabic music, whatever, it's Jewish music, klezmer.
It's quite insane. A roller coaster.
Yeah, man. And I got friends who are like jazz musicians and stuff. So I'm a real music head, but I have this soft spot for synthwave and electronic music that just does not quit. And it's my favorite music to draw to like just to hang out and have it going on in the background.
Yeah, if I know I'm gonna be inking for about an hour or two, I just pop in like Kavinsky and just let it roll.
Who?
Kavinsky? You never heard of Kavinsky?
No.
I said Kaczynski? No, it's Kavinsky. Oh, dude, Kavinsky. Yeah, just listen to that next time. Just type in Kavinsky. Did you ever watch the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, the intro song during the title credits. That's him.
Sweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I don't know a lot of the actual names of people who do this music. I just know the playlists. Put it onto YouTube.
I just know Kavinsky now. I wanted to name drop it so I could show I have some cred.
It's fantastic.
That's the only one I know.
That's awesome. It's awesome. All right. Well, let's move on to something that I really wanted to address here. And at the end of the book, you have the how-tos or the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah.
So this right here to me is like as much as the comic is amazing, I love seeing how an artist's brain works and the initial design drawings. Like, so I'm making my own comic right now, and I've been working on it for almost 2 years. I've been writing it, did the whole thing, and I've got stuck in the design phase. What you're doing right here, this thing here is where I'm stuck in my own comics. I look at it and I'm like, all right, how much time do I like honestly need to devote to this and get through it? How long were you stuck in the design phase?
It's tricky because it was like I said, I was never making this with the intention of ever publishing it or even making it a comic book. So these drawings weren't so much me designing the comic book as much as it was me just doodling and drawing characters. The one on the top left is the first ever instance of me drawing a Tank McGreggor. And it was not like I didn't have a script, I didn't have a comic, I didn't have anything. It was I literally just had a name. Which funny story, the name came from a friend of mine's Xbox avatar handle. That's what he called himself, Tank McGregor. And I just asked him if I could take it because it was such a cool name. And he's like, yeah, take it. So I took it, and I'm like, Tank McGregor, what does he look like? And I just drew him, and I would just draw him, and I would just draw space people and like not quite astronauts. When I decided to start making some sort of storyline, I just went back to all those sketchbooks, and I'm like, oh, I like this guy. I'll take this. I'll take that. I'll take that. But I was never like, all right, I gotta sit down and design Tank. You know, if you go back to the sketchbooks, like I think the next page goes into a few more designs, or maybe not. Well, there's
this one right here where you made him more like you.
I
think that's in the description. Like you made him more skinny.
Because he's more skinny, yeah. Because I got tired of like really buff He-Man looking superheroes. So I'm like, I'm gonna see a superhero that like even Spider-Man is pretty buff. He's pretty cut. I mean, so I wanted to make one that looked just really, really skinny and had no muscle tone. But these drawings are already me trying to figure out the design. So whereas the first ones were just me messing around, these are me trying to like see what I can get away with that I can draw over and over and over and over and from different angles and different positions. Because if I find that, oh, I land on a design and then I realize, oh, crap, I can't draw that from a certain angle, it's going to be a pain in the ass.
I get stuck thinking about what's derivative and what's not. Like, what does this remind you of? And then if it seems too much like something that like Star Trek, for instance, or whatever, I'm like, I can't do that. That's too derivative. And then I'll go to something else and, oh, that reminds me of this. And you get stuck in this thing where it's like your initial idea reminds you of something else. And it's probably the best idea, but you know, like I find that I second guess it. Like for instance, with 100%. Tank here, like with Tank, like you've gone through a bunch of different ideas. Like he had some goggles here first, and then you changed the goggles for this mask, which is kind of reminiscent of Judge Dredd, I think, kind of Judge Dredd-ish, but it's not. Like I don't think a lot of other people would do that right away. To me, it kind of looks like a giant ski mask too, you know, kind of ski mask-ish. Like that's a bold decision. Yeah. It's a bold decision to cover up the face with a mask of that, but it works. Right.
Yeah. And funny you mentioned the ski mask because at one point he had a ski mask. I just wanted like something big and bulky, you know. The goggles were initially because I thought I wanted to do something that was very Mike Mignola-ish. And Mike Mignola has this character called Lobster Johnson who wears the goggles. And I drew him with goggles and I changed it for two reasons. One, because like you said, it's derivative of Lobster Johnson. I couldn't just rip him off. And two, it was a kind of a pain in the ass to draw those goggles constantly. So I decided to go with a more just flat, you know.
Yeah, it looks so good.
Cover most of the face.
Let's see how it plays here. So this is a fight scene that is so good. I love this. Karate, jiu-jitsu, crouching Kwai Long, or whatever it's called. I'd be doing a lot better if I knew any of those.
That's part of the whole like taking. I feel like a lot of comics and a big inspiration was also Frank Miller. And I feel like Frank Miller has these great like inner monologue moments that just sound so badass. And I wanted to do those, but at the end of them, I wanted to make a joke out of it, you know, or take the piss out of it. And that's where that kind of line came from, you know.
You set it up and then you twist it.
Exactly. Yeah, precisely.
And you're really good at that. Like it's so much fun to read because that's something like how did you write anything before this? Was this your first piece of writing or what?
Well, I mean, I've always written little things here and there, and like I mentioned, I have a film background, so I wrote a lot of scripts and a lot of short film scripts and one feature script, and a lot of stuff that I just start and stop and start and stop. But more than having actually written stuff, I've been like studying the art of like the movie structure, like story structure, since I was like in middle school. You know, I bought a Sid Mead how to screenwrite book, and I would just like study it and like read it and like see
Oh, you're not
how
messing
to do
around.
this. Yeah, exactly. Like, well, it's more about not so much because I was like, oh, up here, you know, but like I just was really interested. I wanted to know what the like format was or like how to do these things, and just watch movies and more active than passive. I feel like I always say this, like passive viewers, you watch a movie, you enjoy it. That was great. Awesome. But like active viewers, you're like paying attention to when people hit their marks story wise. At 30 minutes, you know, Neo gets out of the matrix and goes into the ship, you know, and then scene happens. And then at exactly 90 minutes, he decides to go and rescue Morpheus, you know, like those plot twists, plot points is what happens, you
You're
know, and
looking at the rhythm of it, the beats.
exactly.
Yeah.
You're looking at the rhythm of it, the beats. And then when I started doing comics, it was like all that had to be thrown out the window because comics have a different formula, paradigm, you know, a different story structure. They're not necessarily the three acts. But instead of throwing everything out the window and relearn how the comics are made, I decided to then just adapt movie story structures into my stories over here. And that's why I feel like Tank McGreggor feels kind of like a movie in the way that it's structured. You know, it's not
You
released
know
in
it's
like
moving.
several issues. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's a little
It's
more.
deliberate, and it reads like a pro. Like you're a seasoned writer, and it shows. You know,
Oh,
so
thank
it
you.
doesn't surprise me to hear that you've had experience working with like film or like, yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all. I read The Walking Dead, all the comics from start to finish. I bought all the compendiums. You should see it,
Nice.
like weighs down my bookshelf, sags the whole thing. He wrote all of The Walking Dead in terms of beats, and from one plot point to the next, he's like, I'm going to set up this thing, and it's going to happen in the middle of issue 2, and then this next thing is going to be set up and it's going to happen over here. And he had the whole thing in terms of timeline and interconnecting plot lines. He didn't interconnect things too much. It was mostly, we're going to set up this one absolute shocker of a thing, and then another and another, and that kind of typified it, you know.
Is that how you work as well, or do you have to like figure it out on the spot, or do you have it planned out? I know you said you're writing a comic right now, but you're already like in
Yeah,
the storyboarding phase, so you already wrote it.
the script is written, gone over. I ran it through an editor. This
Hmm.
is my second script. So I wrote
Okay.
another one for my buddy that was more like geared towards jokes and stuff.
Hmm.
What I did was more from Tolkien. I like J.R.
Oh.
Tolkien's writing style, which is like he developed the world. And then see what I do when I watch movies is I'm very, very active as well. But my favorite
Mm.
thing to do is watch the commentaries. And I'll watch the
Oh.
commentaries over and over and over again and hear what the writers and the producers and the director, the actors are all saying about, you know, the meaning of the film. Like one of
Mhm.
my favorites is Heat. I love Heat.
Great movie.
It's absolutely fantastic. And when you hear the director talk about it, he's talking about how the action going on in the movie is about this elevated existence, and how
Mhm.
the like him being a cop and him being a criminal, those are the two like elevated aspects of their lives. And so this is like a theater of, you know, who they really want to be, or it's so I really like that, like the underlying themes
That's
of things.
awesome. Yeah, I love hearing about all that in the commentaries as well. And it's so funny because like you sort of put these like writers and Hollywood people and like up on a pedestal, like, oh, they know what they're doing, whatever. And a lot of times in these commentaries, people talk and you realize they were just kind of figuring it out at the same time, or like solutions, things that happen in movies were more like solutions that they had to get through for the same problems that like people in our level have. You know, they're just trying to like get it together, and what
Yeah.
happens, you know. But funny thing, not to go too much on the tangent, but like
No,
about
tangent away, all the way. Let's do it.
Heat. So you know that was obviously written by Michael Mann, great movie. But before he made Heat, he made it as a TV movie. Did you know that?
What?
Yeah, so
No.
it's called LA Takedown, and it's the same script but with all these like TV actors, and you can find it on YouTube, and you can find the dinner scene, you know, the dinner the diner scene where Pacino and De Niro sit down, and it's like there's a flip side to that
Quintessential.
coin. Yeah, there's a flip side
Like
to that
the
coin. I'm going to
ultimate
take you
scene.
down. The ultimate scene. You can see that scene with two completely unknown actors, and it's just like, wow, it's so interesting to watch because it's like the power of like a good actor changes it. So LA Takedown, you should watch that.
That sounds great. Totally up my alley. That's amazing.
It's so interesting. Yeah.
Holy crap. Yeah, I don't have a lot of time, so I'm going to move along a little faster than I normally would. This should be good actually for in terms of a podcast because I can ramble. Let's talk about the ships for a second, because I'm a big fan of spaceships. And when I saw these doodles, I was like, oh, this guy speaks my language.
Dude, no, your spaceships are like miles, kilometers, if I may, for Canadians.
Nice one. Gut punch.
It is so far beyond like I don't know why it's a gut punch. It's a compliment. Your spaceships are so great. What I'm saying.
Oh man, I'm so like not into like, why are we doing kilometers? We have to be international. Oh, so frou, you know.
No, but your spaceships are insane, man. Like I look at some of your posts and it's like so crazy, and I wish I could draw spaceships like that. But spaceships are some of the hardest things for me to draw. I cannot do it. Gosh. I hate it.
You know, thanks. I really appreciate that. It's new. All that stuff is within the last 2 years or so that I've learned how to do perspective. So I went to art school. I went to like several schools here in Toronto, going through trying to figure out what exactly is good art. That was the one question that I had going up. Is like, I know I want to be an artist, but how do I be a good one? What's a world-class artist? What's good art? Why is this abstract stuff supposed to be good art? And why are comics supposed to be kitsch? And I don't understand. So it took me a very long time to kind of get my bearings, but I went through fine art for a couple of years. And then I realized that they weren't teaching me any fundamentals aside from color theory and texture and postmodernism. And so I came out of like years of education in a university and a college without learning perspective, for instance.
Wow.
And I was like, I'm an artist. I'm really good. And then I would watch these guys who went to animation school or design school, who I grew up with, and they're drawing the things that I want to draw. They're drawing like tech and spaceships and mech and physiques and stuff and all these. And I'm like, I can do life drawing for days, but I want to draw a robot. How do I draw a robot? You know? So I bought a book, Scott Robertson, How to Draw. Like a couple of years ago, and I didn't just read it casually. I carried it with me everywhere. It's dog-eared. I would do things like, did you know that Einstein, when he was working on a project, he would sleep in like 2 or 3 hours at a time, and he would wake himself up, and he'd be working on a problem at his table, and he would have some kind of heavy object like a rock in his hand, and he would doze off, and the rock would drop, and then he would wake up. And then his brain had processed what he was working on, and then he was able to work. So he used sleep as a tool to learn faster, right?
That's insane.
So I started doing that with perspective. I would take naps.
Holding a rock.
Well, yeah. I mean, I would not sleep the whole night. I'd set my alarm, put it off in the kitchen, and it would go off, and then I would go and wake up, and it's like, okay, I'm going to study this now, learn how to do mirroring. And then I would work on that till my brain hurt, go back to sleep, wash, rinse, repeat until I got it.
It paid off.
It was really hard, man. It was hard. So yeah, I do a lot of videos on perspective now.
I need to adopt that then. I need to check those out. I need to learn.
Scott Robertson is the man. But okay, so we brought this up initially because your spaceships I think they're on point. These are great.
Oh, thank you.
They're really cool. I love the fins and the dragster style. You know what it reminds me of is Simon Bisley when he did Slain, or not Slain, Lobo. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, I know Lobo. Yeah, I don't know the artist, but I know Lobo.
Oh man, yeah. So he had some he would take a Harley Davidson and turn it into a spaceship, and he would just fly through space with this twisted out bike. It was awesome. Anyway, that's kind of what it reminds me of. You got some style going on there.
Yeah,
very, very cool. So Emma, talk to me about Emma here.
Emma, I mean, I just kind of wanted to draw a hot naked chick and that's what I did. No, man, like I mean, I felt like every sci-fi story has to have like a sexy hologram, right? So I just did a hologram, and initially, I think I even read it there. She ended up looking very much like Cortana from Halo. So it's like, all right, well, I can't do that. So in the trying to figure out what design I want to go with, it became part of the story that she is glitching out, and every couple of minutes she just has a different design to her, you know. So
Cool.
at one point she's like a
Yeah.
housewife, at another point she's like a bodybuilder, and it just keeps going and going. So it's
That's
more just me having fun with it.
the new Blade Runner. The new Blade Runner has a really good hologram thing going on in there.
Yeah, and she's like at one point she's like a 60s housewife, which is like when I did mine and I finished the whole scene, literally like a week later Blade Runner came out and I saw it and I'm like, oh damn, not only did they beat me to it, they did it way better than I could ever do it. But you know,
But that shows your mind is on the
I'm
whatever's
plugged
in the
into,
air.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you know. So Stargazer is the name of the robot girl. It's a
Right.
robot girl who's like in a different body, correct?
Yeah.
I don't want to spoilers. Is that a spoiler?
I get that is kind of a spoiler, I suppose, but but I think you're right on the cusp. Yeah, I know. I think people like read it and they'll see something's up, so it's not a huge spoiler. But yeah, it's a sex bot.
Nice. Yeah, not a sex bot because she's pretty crazy. It's awesome. It's like she's
More like
forced
a
to be a
murder
sex
bot.
bot, but she has no interest. Yeah, it becomes a murder bot.
Yeah, exactly. As you do.
Oh man. Yeah. Westworld. Or when you say murder bot, I think of Westworld.
Oh, that's true. Westworld. I didn't even make the connection. Now, because in Westworld they're all like Western people, and here it's just robots.
There's this part in Westworld where there's like the administration, the welcoming room where you're like, here you're going to go into Westworld, and you meet this stunning blonde in a white dress, right? And the actress who played, and she's a robot. You don't know that she's a robot, but she is.
Oh.
And in real life, she was Elon Musk's wife at one point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and he tweeted about her and says, "Yeah, congratulations to, I forget her name, she's like a murder sex bot in Westworld, it's a great role, et cetera, et cetera."
Nice.
It's like, yeah, Elon Musk, way to go, bro.
Of course he would marry a murderer sex bot.
Of course. Yeah,
and then he was probably disappointed that she wasn't. That's when he divorced. When he found out she wasn't a murder sex bot.
You touched on this thing. It's like people think that folks like Elon Musk or Lex Friedman or these scientists are all like robots in humans' bodies, which is kind of, you touched on that. I was thrown when I read that. I'm like, wait a sec, what? These are robots in humans' bodies? Like, that's such a cool take on it.
Yeah, man. And I mean, it's just more about like, and granted, I haven't read that many comics in my lifetime. I read my fair share. I read a lot, but I don't think I've read as many as, say, like someone who's a hardcore fan from like infancy. But I had never seen that. And I had never seen, people are always being like put from human to robot, but never the other way around. So I wanted to do that. I had never seen that in a comic. So that's where that exploration came from.
It was wild. I really appreciated that. It was a great idea. I got one thing I want to go through here, and I'm going to subject you to this. You're going to love it. So this is a segment. So it's a beat. We're going to move from one thing to the next, like writing. Gotcha. So I don't know. Going to see what you think of this. All right. Here's my intro video that I made, and then we'll go and we'll answer some fake chats.
Let's do it.
This is real, is it? So this is a segment I'm going to be doing from now on in.
That's another one of those things funny. That's another one of those things you just sent me randomly, like, hey, look what I made. I'm like, oh, cool. What's this for?
Like, what is that? Yeah. Well, here's what it is. So we have a bunch of fake chats. First one is from Zek600 Orb. Says, first time super chatting. Love the show. Just want to say, keep doing what you're doing. Turtles for life. Seriously. I think Zex has a drug problem, most likely.
Love
You
it.
know how in a bunch of podcasts there's a chat and there's a culture in the chat, and then there's people who are new and they're trying to act like they're part of the thing, and so they're on the inside
Yeah.
jokes and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. Is that what this guy
It's
is?
it's a it's a funny cultural thing that I think is pretty funny. And my buddy drew these. These are his comic book characters.
Oh wow. Okay.
He did
Yeah.
like 10 of them in the span of like half an hour.
That well, that guy definitely looks like he was the 10th one. He looks he looks like he's drunk or on something else entirely. I'm not sure.
I'm going to try not to explain the jokes if they don't land.
All right, gotcha.
Anime kaijus. Draw bigger eyes. What's wrong with you?
Well, you know, not everybody has big eyes. What do you want?
I know. Like, what's with the thing with anime? Everyone loves anime. Anime's cool. Yeah. It's all
I
right.
love anime. Yeah. Do you think it's one of those things where like well, I don't know. I feel like okay, so like Japanese people have a very particular set of eyes. And so maybe by drawing ginormous eyes, they're not trying to compensate, but like I don't know. I often wonder if there's some reflection of that, you know, culturally as to why they draw big eyes. But I also
It's
don't want to.
weird. Everyone
Yeah.
wants to be something that they're not. If you have brown hair, you want to have blonde hair. If you have no hair, you want hair. If you have lots of hair, you probably don't want to be bald. I just ruined my own theory. Doomer Boomer says it's a post Windows 7 world. It's rough.
Post Windows several numbers world.
Time goes
Oh,
by.
you know who
fast
he
for
looks
some
like?
people.
He looks like Salad Fingers. Do you remember Salad Fingers?
Salad
Super Dude?
fingers. His salad fingers.
Yeah. He looks like that guy. He even has that gray, creepy background and that weird offsetting smile. I love it.
That's right. And the managerial shirt. It's like, no,
Yeah.
you come up through the ranks, but you're dead inside.
Yeah.
Farty McGold guy says, beans and whiskey for brekkie, boys. It's a man's world. Old guy
this
culture.
Now, this guy must be Australian because I know brekkie is the way they say breakfast in Australia.
We're Canadian. Yeah, like we have.
Oh, is that also the way?
There's so many Canadianisms. Like, so Mike Myers made frickin' a thing. So it's like
really?
The more I say like frickin', like bloody frickin' hell, that you can't get more Canadian than that, eh? You just can't.
Hey?
You know, go grab my Timmies and bloody hell, it was so hot and it spilt all over me, eh? Yeah. Joe of the Hill Country says, you guys are good and everything, but can you draw a robot chicken funk band?
No, I cannot. I can draw a robot chicken rock band. Is that the same
you don't
thing?
do funk? What's wrong with funk?
I don't do funk. No, sorry. What is funk? I think we can get into a much deeper conversation here. I just know whenever you say funk, I think of that funky music. Like play that funky music, white boy. That's all I know off the funk.
James Brown? You don't like James
and like
Brown?
a bum, bum, ding, dum, bum, bum, bum. That's all I know. I like James Brown. Is James Brown funk? I didn't know.
Oh, James Brown is the godfather. He's the king of funk. Yeah.
I thought it was I thought he was the king of I thought he was the king of soul. Am I thinking of someone else?
Well, so it's the same thing. Yeah, soul is like funk is just soul turned up a couple of notches and probably with a little bit of LSD kicked in there too.
Oh, okay, wonderful. I got to get into that then. I got to get LSD first, and then I'll understand. I'll call you in the middle of the night. I understand it now.
The roles are reversed. What it took for him to message me was a little bit of LSD.
Yeah.
Artie McFly says, you're a good artist, but can you draw a DeLorean at 88 miles an hour?
Yeah, it would just be like a blur. Just draw a blur.
Lots of fire behind you.
Just lots of fire, but mainly a blur. Because 80 miles per hour, you don't actually when it hits 88 miles per hour, you don't even see it anymore. So I can draw a DeLorean. It would just be blank space and the fire tire marks.
You know what I think about is like, why does it come out of time travel like super cold? Right? He's like, it's cold, damn cold. It's like minus 400 degrees is space, right?
Yeah.
Space is really cold.
That's a really good point. I don't know. I'm sure we could if we had a lot more time, we could figure it out. But because when you go fast enough, you get hot.
I'm sure the science is legit.
Oh, that's what it is. It goes from one to the other so much that it like freezes. It flash freezes. It gets so hot that when it like is no longer hot, it like flash freezes, and that's why you get that chemical reaction of it's. I don't know.
Makes perfect sense to me. Perfect
Thank
sense.
you. I saw your blank stare, and I'm like, I need to stop talking. This guy.
What? No Ken Dudu says, for a noob YouTuber, you're pretty good. Just kidding. Marry me. I don't know. I'm single. I might consider it.
You should.
Poopy Longstocking says, Mom makes me eat too many vegetables. What I want is liver and onions and tripe. Lots of tripe. Life is so unfair.
Okay, so is tripe another Canadian thing?
Tripe? You don't know what tripe is? Oh man. So it's a Scottish thing. It's the intestines of a sheep, I think.
Oh.
Generally how they do it. And you have to boil it crazy. Like it's super boiled all the time.
Okay. I guess that makes sense. Longstocking is a very Scottish name, I suppose.
You don't know Pippi Longstocking?
I know Pippi Longstocking. I know that, yeah. But was she Scottish? I only ever watched that in Spanish, so I didn't know what nationality she was.
In Spanish?
Yeah, I'm not even joking. I only ever saw that movie in Spanish.
Wow, Pippi Longstocking is cross-cultural. That's wild. Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool, man. Yeah, so that's my new segment. I think it's pretty funny. I'm going to be doing something like that over the course of time, just throwing in fake chats because my channel's small. You know, I don't have like a following yet. It's like, I think when you do a live stream, if you have 1,000 people, you'll get 1 or 2 people on your stream, right? It's like, that's generally the rule. 1 live streamer in your chat per 1,000 subs. So I got a ways to go yet. But until then, I figure I'm just going to make some ridiculous, stupid people.
Oh, dude, you're on your way. It's like the same thing that we were talking about, how like you make something that you find funny and that resonates with you, the people will follow, you know?
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that you're
and
not
the fun
like,
thing is, it's like, I'm collaborating with my friend on this one all the time. So like I'm back and forth going, hey man, can you make me up a bunch of these things? And he's like, yeah, okay, sure. You know? Yeah,
man. I appreciate that you're not like busting out like Fortnite videos and doing some crazy thing that you like see all these other people do. It's like, now you're doing your thing.
Doing my thing. Yeah, for sure. And it's like, what's the point if you're not collaborating with other artists, you know?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Which is
like,
fairly...
isn't that, go ahead.
No, yeah. Well, that's the whole goal, right? I mean, like I always wanted to collaborate with other artists in some capacity. I feel, and this is not, nobody's told me this, but I feel like I'm kind of hard to work with because I get really, really emotional about an idea and I know how it should be. So whenever somebody like suggests some variation of it, I like tend to like fight back. I'm like, no, you don't know what you're talking about. So I tend to not work with a lot of people, but I want to. I want to be better and work with artists.
I think collaboration is the highest goal of humanity, and the obstacles to collaboration, everyone has it. Like collaboration, I think it can accomplish the most, and it's also the most fraught with problems and the most difficult thing to do. I think in general. And with an artist, when you're dealing with an artist, you're dealing with huge ego, you're dealing with massive talent usually, and lack of social skills. Because most artists are very task oriented into their thing, like engineers too, I guess, very kind of similar, you know, where we need to work with other people really badly and we're horrible at it. Yeah. At least that's what I think, you know? So when you come into an organization like Lesser Known Comics, or you work in a comic book and you need to source things out. Are you going to do the whole thing yourself? You'll make 1 comic a year, you know?
Right.
Like, my favorite duos are like artist and inker. You have an artist and an inker. So back in the day in the 80s, it was Mark Silvestri and Dan Green on X-Men. And you see, like, I see Mark Silvestri's work on him where he's like has another inker or something like that. And I see Dan Green inking someone else. And I'm like, no, they need to be working together all the time. Like just take these guys, stick them in a room and don't let them out.
Oh wow!
have them work out their things, you know, whatever it is.
I guess it's good that it's not up to you then, because then you'd be probably arrested for kidnapping.
I'd be a horrible boss.
You two lock him in there together. Yeah, go create life, create art.
Yeah, I think comics are great that way because you need to collaborate. So like, if you're working with people like Mark Brunal, you know, Charlie Ragnarok, and all those people, it's like you're working with some class people.
Yeah, they make it so easy. I've never wanted to work with more people more than I have with those guys. I mean, like it's so fun. From a film background, it's very hard to collaborate with people because it's you think egos for artists are big. Like imagine film people, it's times 100, you know. So it's very hard to collaborate with someone and like have someone's vision match with yours. But like I feel like comic books and artists, it's all like we all just want to like draw, you know. Like everyone's art is cool and everyone's art works for themselves and for everyone else. So it's like, oh, now I want to see if I can draw like this person. I want to draw your characters in my style, you know. And it's not like no, like Tank McGreggor doesn't belong in that style. No, it's like, oh yeah, go for it. Like I want to see what Tank McGregor looks like in your style. So
How
it's
do you
just so
deal
much
with
fun.
criticism?
I don't. I can't. I very poorly. I have to. Well, at least I recognize this in myself. I don't take criticism well. I don't. So I have to kind of like shut off and like don't let my base reactions get hold, and I have to let it sit for like 2 days, whatever the criticism is, and then in 2 days I can see it and I see if it was a valid critique or not. If you, I mean, my wife will tell me like, "Hey, this doesn't work," whatever, and I'll get really angry, like, "No, you just didn't get it." Ah, yeah. But then, like after a while, I'm like, "No, she was right," you know. And the same with like people. People will tell me like things that work or don't work, and I have to like let it simmer. I have to just go like, "All right, I'll take a look at that," you know, and just kind of like let it be. So I can't on the moment. In the moment, my reaction's always like, "No, you don't know what you're talking about," and I can't help it. It's just so all my love that I put into a book coming out in anger.
So you mentioned your wife. So I'm a
Mm,
single guy. Personally, I think in this regard, in regards to ego
mhm,
and collaboration, I think having a wife is a superpower because you're gonna have to
mm,
work that out to make it work, right? And I think
yeah.
that's probably part of the reason why I'm still single is because it's so difficult, you know. And
Mm,
it might have to do with the person, but I don't think so. You know what I mean? In my
mhm,
case, it's like it's a tequila sunrise situation, you know. Some
mm.
people claim that there's a woman to blame, but I know that it's my own damn fault, you know. That's kind of how it goes.
Oh, well, when you had, I'm assuming you've had significant others throughout the years.
Yeah, I'm a single dad,
Oh,
and
okay.
I've tried. I'm still on the market, you know. I've tried several times, but I stopped dating a couple of years ago.
Oh,
So
well,
I'm just
yeah,
trying to get through.
you don't need it, dude. I envy you. I'm just kidding. I envy you, but whatever.
No.
Um, no, but my question was gonna be, did you show your work to your significant other?
uh, uh, yeah, yeah. We dated for a year though.
Okay, you didn't have enough time.
There's been many relationships, and I mean, the number one thing in my life is that I'm an artist, and I've been very upfront about it.
Mm,
But it's always been a side hustle. I
mm,
never actually figured out how to do it because of the philosophies of art and trying to figure out what exactly it is and why comics are probably right for me, even though they're kitsch, even though it's low art. You know,
mm. Yeah,
it took me
I think it's
forever to realize that.
I do agree with you that they are seen that way, but I think maybe starting in the last couple of years, they've been starting to become more of a I don't want to say high art because what is high art, but more in the zeitgeist, more in the mainstream of like the human consciousness that like graphic novels are a form of art and more people are starting to read them, especially with all these like Hollywood adaptations that are happening. More people are like looking into like, oh, the movie was good. Let me see what this is like, you know. If it hadn't been for movie adaptations, I would have never discovered Saga, you know, which is one of the all-time best comics ever made, in my opinion. And not that it has a movie adaptation or anything, but movie adaptations got me into reading Sin City, which got me into reading Hellboy, which got me into reading things that weren't movies, which got me into Saga. You know, it just like that was my into comic books was through movies. So
Nice.
I think more than ever, comics are reaching that eventual like, oh, they're up here and they're going to be more taken more seriously as an art form. Hopefully.
I hope so. You know, it was my brother who actually turned me on to the idea that I can't get away from sci-fi. So I had
Mm,
done a bunch of paintings. I've been painting and selling in galleries and selling online since 2007, and they were
okay.
horses and abstracts. Those were the ones that sold the most. Horses and
Interesting.
abstracts, you know. And when I sell horse paintings, everyone's like, "Oh, what do you think about this type of horse and that type of horse? And do you ride?" And I'm like, "I have no interest in horses whatsoever. People just buy them. And I felt like such a poser. Like, what am I doing in this world? You know, what I want to be drawing is spaceships, right?
Yeah.
So I would do abstract paintings. And my brother, after a couple of failed shows in the recent years, I had done this show of musicians, and I like musicians. That's good. I figured that was something that was more legitimate in terms of content. It's like, yeah, if you do paintings of musicians, that's high art. You know, I can probably get into galleries with that or whatever. And the show, I didn't sell one painting. I was like, man, it's so weird, you know? And my brother says, you know, everything you do has something sci-fi in it. You just can't get away from it. You can't. And I was like,
nothing wrong with that though.
Nothing wrong with that. I should just do what I love, you know?
But like, so now you're just doing things that they don't have that much of a sci-fi angle, or what?
I'm doing all sci-fi. I'm all in. Like I left the horses and the abstracts. They're done. I'm not touching that anymore. I'm going to make this comic book, and I'm going to draw spaceships and robots and tell stories about future and time travel. And that's where
I actually cannot wait to see your comic book now. I'm excited. Honestly, your spaceships are something else. And I wish, because you do these things where you like will draw it, but then you'll like kind of open up one section of it and you'll see the inside of it, right? You do like these diagrams, and it's like, how do you even imagine the inside? I mean, are you referencing it off of something, or is it just coming out of your head?
Just trying to do good design. That's it. Like game design or what have you, and trying to figure out how things work. Yeah, that's what
exactly. I can't do that. I can't imagine something from scratch. And I try to do that where I'm like, all right, ideally, how would like this be designed so that it could work in a real situation? And I just can't do it. I just always end up making it too ridiculous, which is fine for the type of comic that Tank McGreggor is. But if I were ever to do something that's a little more serious, I'd have to step up my spaceship game.
It's perfectly fine. I find it really challenging, which is why I'm doing it. So I got this thing. I did this ad. So we've been talking back and forth on Insta, and I polled you for some ideas for stupid advertisements. And and then I liked one of these ideas, so I made a short commercial break. So now a word from our sponsors. Share. Are you looking to start a business in a war-torn country? Share. Listen to what Roman has to say.
Buy Roman. Good for kidnapping. Buy shed from me. Share. You can put tool in there. You can put kidnapping or that guy. Nobody knows.
Share. Victims not included. Sales are final.
You went with the sheds. Dude, I was literally walking past, I was walking in the park, I was walking my dog, and you messaged me, and I saw that. You're like, hey, some advertisements. And I literally looked over and I saw a shed, and I'm like, I don't know, man, sheds, good for kidnapping. I can't believe you put that in there. That's so funny. And I love the voiceover.
I had such a good time doing it.
It's such a Salad Fingers thing. It's so creepy.
It's completely random, and it's like, yeah, let's do that. You know,
I'm going to be 100%. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, and you're going to think I'm an asshole. But I came up with a bunch of others, or some really good ones, and I decided not to share them because I'm like, no, I want to keep this.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
But yeah. Anyway, which was what were some of the runner-ups?
Oh, that was the number one. I had a bunch in there that I had come up with, but they were they were more on the serious tip. But the sheds thing was just so random. It was that's good for late night. I can do that, you know?
That's funny because I didn't even think you liked it because I wrote it for you and you were like, heh. You were like H-E-H, and I'm like, oh, okay, he didn't care for it. Because I read it I read it like, eh.
It's I can write emojis. I can put the laughing, with the tears coming out and all that. And it's oh yeah. But after a while, it's just hyperbole, right?
Do you have in Canada? Do you have a store? It's a franchise over here. Do you have a store called Bath and Body Works?
Yes. You
have Bath and Body Works. Yes. I thought of, and I'm putting this in Tank McGreggor as a store in the back. I'm going to put a Bath and Body Horror Works. I think that's one of the most clever things I've ever thought of.
It's like, I love having a little pocket of dumb ideas, and where you just like, you brainstorm something, write it down, and then find a way to incorporate it into whatever it is you're working on.
Yeah, I am a pocket of bad ideas.
Did you write
I
down
want.
some of those ideas you did not share? Are you going to use them?
I did. Well, Bath and Body Horror Works was one of them. Although now saying it out loud, it might not have been that great. No, it looks better in my head.
For sure.
I don't
Oh
I
yeah.
don't remember what the other ones were. Something about like no, I completely forgot them actually. I must have written them down somewhere. I had this idea of like I want to use this at some point. If like there's a guy, a pilot called Manuel, on a ship, and they make him drive. Someone has to say like, "Oh, we're switching to Manuel control."
It's a dad joke switching to
Yeah,
sci-fi. Yes.
yeah,
Awesome.
exactly. And that might actually be one of my Gorbis the Conqueror things for the next issue.
I love the Gorbis the Conqueror, like
They're all just
the
dad
pithy, the guy who has he has no business being pithy, but he's pithy all the way.
Exactly. I love him. I should do a whole book just about him.
It's good. It's a great excerpt because it gives you a beat. It sets things off. Yeah, I mean, it's just a cool writing device. But yeah, those were some of my favorite parts of the comic, actually, were your little Gorbis the
Awesome.
Conqueror quotes.
Yeah, I get that a lot, and I did not expect that those were going to be a lot of the people's favorite parts of the book. But yeah, I mean, they were only going to be in that one, but now I want to do them for all of them because they were so well received. They're hard to come up with, though, man. If you ever think of one, fucking just text it to me.
Oh, they're so hard.
Yeah, they're so hard. I can't. And I mean, the ones that I chose, I think there's like 5 of them in the book. Those were like the top 5 out of like hundreds of things that I would write and iterate. And even those, like I would write something and then I like reiterate and reiterate and reiterate until it came up with the best version of that possible one.
Yeah. Man, I got so many things I want to talk to you about. Can we do this again?
Please. I had so much fun. I would love to do this again. Part 2.
Awesome. Because I have a heart out and I got to go. But man, it has been a huge treat. I've been looking forward to this for a while now. Thank you.
Likewise,
Thank
dude.
you so
Likewise.
much.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, for sure.
All right. I got to go. Yeah. So let's pump the Kickstarter. What you got going on in your life? Where can people go? I wrote everything in the description of the video for the Kickstarter to put them there, but and your Instagram as well. Are those the 2 main things, your Instagram and the Kickstarter?
Those are the 2 main things. You can find me on Instagram at Tank McGreggor Comic. That is where I post all my Tank McGreggor related stuff and most of my art. I'm trying to start a different Instagram that is just for art that's not Tank McGreggor related, but it's nothing right now. So Tank McGreggor Comic is my Instagram. And if you go to Kickstarter and you find the lesser known comics Kickstarter batch 4, that's where you can find and pledge for the Tank McGreggor and the Mechanical Menace, as well as a lot of other books in the LKC catalog.
Fantastic. Well, sir, it has been a treat, and I'll be talking at you soon.
Awesome, dude. Don't stop.
All right. Cheers.